Okay, factoring trinomials. Real fast. And this is for March 25th. This was the video lesson from earlier. If you guys missed it, right. I want you to recall a while back when we were learning how to FOIL. I taught you the FOIL method and I taught you the box method. And we started with two sets like this. We started with x plus 1 times x plus 5. So when you FOIL or you use the box method, your plan is to simplify this. So when you simplify an expression, that means you have done all the you've done all the steps of PEMDAS. You've multiplied, you've done parentheses, any exponents, multiplication, division, addition, subtraction, all of it, and you've simplified it as much as you can. It can't be simplified anymore. So with doing the box method again, I'm going to draw your box, section it off into 4 spots. You can choose which one goes where. On this one, I'm going to put x plus 1, but then x plus 5. And I'm only putting the pluses in there to remind me that they're both positive. So then to figure out what's in this square, you take what's outside of the square and multiply against each other. So x times x is x squared. To figure out what's in this square, we have 1 above it and x to the left. So 1 times x is we're going to add 1x. In this square we have x and a 5, so x times 5 is going to give you plus 5x. And then a positive 1 times a positive 5 is going to give you a positive 5. So notice how these two are like terms. They both have x's. So you're going to combine that. So when you come out, you're going to write your first term, which is in the top left corner, x squared. Combining these two will give you a plus 6x, and then you tag on the plus 5. And there you go, you have a simplified trinomial. Remember, it's a trinomial because there's 3 terms in here. So to go from here to here, we've gone from here to here before. And this was a simplified version. Okay, now when the direction tells you to simplify this, you go box method, FOIL method, get to here. But in this lesson, we're going to factor this trinomial. So we're going to start with the trinomial, and we're going to work our way backwards to get to the factored version. And this is the factored version. So it's kind of like a little cycle. Alright. So starting with your, remember these are going to go, these are just a couple of example problems I pulled off the whole entire notes set, which will be posted as well for you guys. So, set 1. So there's different ways a trinomial can look. This is problem number 1. One of those ways is your trinomial has addition on both of them. So it's plus 9n plus 20. Alright. Go ahead and draw a diagonal line starting from the n squared and draw a diagonal line from the 20. They should cross and make an x. Now remember that this is just one set of n squared. So the number that's going to go here is this 1 times 20 gives you a 20. And you bring down that positive 9. Now, these two numbers right here, what we're trying to do is we're trying to find the two numbers that are going to go in here in our factored version. If you noticed, these two numbers actually multiply to give you a positive 5, and then they combined to give you a positive 6. So, our set n is going to go on the outside because the only way you can get n squared is n times n. It's going to be plus plus. Another way to think of it is I just like to write on the side is two positive numbers will combine and give us a positive, and multiply and give us a positive. So to find these two numbers, I'm going to look at the factors of 20. Factors of 20 is 1 and 20, 2 and 10, 4 and 5, and it ends right there. Now, since these two numbers, the factors of 20, those are going to be the numbers that go here. All of these numbers multiply against each other, and they give you 20. But now we need the two that combine to give you 9. So if you add 1 and 20, you're going to get 21. If you add 2 and 10, you're going to get 12. But if you add 4 and 5, you're going to get 9. That's the numbers you want. So you can write them right here. 4 and 5 multiplied together gives you 20, but if you combine them, it gives you 9. So that would be the numbers that go in here. If you are unsure if you chose the right numbers, if you write them in here, you'll know they're right by multiplying them together and adding them. Or you can go ahead and write them out in factored form, and then go ahead and either do the box method, or you can do the FOIL method and simplify them, and you should get back to here. So another one out of this set, and this set is all about your two factored ones are plus plus, would be number 2, which was w squared plus 9w plus 18. Again. Alright, 1 times 18 is 18. So now we want two numbers that multiply to give you 18, but combine and give you 9. So if we're looking at 18, we have 1 and 18, 2 and 9, 3 and 6, and that's it. So 1 and 18 is going to give you 19, 2 and 9 is going to give you 11, 3 and 6 though will give you 9. The one that gives you this number right here, that's the set you want. So you want 3 and 6. So if you have a positive 3 and you have a positive 6, that'll give you a 18. That gives you a positive 9. Draw your set of parentheses. We're working with W, W. Alright, these are both positive. And then 6 and 3. I also could have written this W plus 3 times W plus 6. Since multiplication is commutative, you can write this either way and it's still going to give you the same answer. Alright, looking at the second set. Set number 2. We're going to look at problem number 5 that says n squared plus 3n plus 18. That's not supposed to be a positive plus, that's supposed to be subtract 18. So notice whereas this one was plus plus, this one's plus minus. Since this is a number, since this is a product, that means you took two numbers, multiplied them against each other to get this. The only way you're going to get a negative in multiplication is if one number is a positive and the other one's negative. So again, a 1 times a negative 18 is a negative 18. So you want two numbers that multiply to give you negative 18, but combine to give you 3. Since one of them is a positive and one of them is a negative, I'm going to go ahead and write those two down because I already know that. So with 18, so when you're looking for the factors of a negative number, you look for the factors of that positive number. So 1 and 18, 2 and 9, 3 and 6. We found these up here too, but now, since one's positive and one's negative, that means when we combine them, it's going to be subtraction. Since we have a positive number as our outcome, you're going to want to take the bigger number, 18, and subtract the smaller number. That's going to give you 17, that is going to give you 7, and that is going to give you 3. And you want the one that gives you the positive 3, which is this one right here. So notice that our 6 was positive, and we subtracted 3. So a positive 6 times a negative 3 is a negative 18, but if you combine positive 6 minus 3 gives you a positive 3. And so then you do your parentheses again, n, we have a positive and we have a negative. and we have the 6, and you have the 3. You could have written these again the other way. It's commutative. Either way goes, as long as you keep the correct sign in front of the correct number. Do not try and mix up, tell me that that was a positive 3 and a negative 6. No. Keep the correct sign, and you can write them both ways. Alright, let's see. Number 8. Looks like c squared plus 4c minus 45. We're still working with that positive and negative. So we want two numbers that multiply to give you a negative 45, but add and give you a positive 4. So looking at the factors of 45, we have 1 in 45. 2 doesn't go into 45. 3 goes in there 15 times. 4 doesn't go into 45. But 5 goes in there 9 times. I'm going to tell you as of now, it's going to end right there. So again, the number that we want to combine to is positive. So you take 45 minus 1 equals 44. 15 minus 3 equals 12. And 9 minus 5 equals 4. And you want to take the one that gives you this. So our positive number was 9, our negative number was 5. So that should be c plus 9 times c minus 5. Voila! Factor. Okay. Jumping over here. Now, the other set 3, squared minus 2a minus 3. Notice again we have our constant term, the one that we multiply, is negative, so we're still going to have a plus minus. But since the combined term is negative, that means the bigger number was negative this time and the smaller number is positive. So your fact 3 is prime. So that all that means is that the only thing that goes into 3 is 1 and 3. 1 in itself. Since we need the smaller number to be the negative number and the bigger number to be positive, you can multiply, you can subtract straight across. So 1 minus 3 gives you negative 2. So we wanted a negative 3 and a negative 2. Still positive negative, so that would be a positive 1 and negative 2. A plus 1, a minus 2. Alright, looking at number 12. We have k squared minus 12k minus 64. We still have that positive negative, by the way. So we want two numbers that multiply to give you negative 64. But when you combine them, they give you a negative 12. So looking at the factors of 64, we have 1 in 64, 2 in 32, 3 does not go into it, 4 in 16, 5 doesn't go, 6 doesn't go, 7 doesn't go, 8 times 8. That's the end. So again, the only way we're going to get a negative number when you combine two numbers is if the smaller one was negative. Or the smaller one was positive and the bigger one was negative. So subtract straight across. This would give you negative 63, this would give you negative 30, this would give you negative 12, and this would give you 0. And the one that gave you is negative 12, the combined form you're looking for was 4 and 6. But we want 4 to be positive and 4 and 16, and 16 to be negative. So that would be k minus 16. K plus 4. Okay. Last set. The other way a trinomial could look, set 4, going to do number 13, x squared minus 11x plus 24. We've talked about plus plus, we've talked about plus minus, we've talked about minus minus. Now it's time to talk about minus plus. Minus plus. Okay, if your constant is a positive number, you can get that by multiplying two positive against each other, or multiplying two negatives. Two negatives gives you a positive. Well, in this case, it's two negatives because you have this negative sign. So this told you that when you combine two things, you got negative. Alright, do the same thing. You want two numbers that multiply and give you a positive 24, but when you combine them, they give you a negative 11. So looking at the factors of 24, we have 1 and 24, 2 and 12, 3 and 8, 4 and 6. Remember, when you have same signs, you combine like terms and keep the sign. So I'm just going to go ahead and combine all of these, add them all together. So this would be 25, 14, 11, and 10. And the one that gives me the right sum will be it. But I know these need to be negatives, so instead of them being positive, it's going to be negative 3 and negative 8. Because a negative 3 times a negative 8, you would still do 3 plus 8, which would give you 11, and keep the negative sign, giving you a negative 11. So when you split this, it'll be x minus 8, x minus 3. Again, you could have written the x minus 3 first. I kind of have a tendency to write the bigger number first. Alright. Number 14. This one is x squared minus 14x plus 49. Alright, again, we're looking for a negative negative. Two numbers that multiply and give you 49, but when you combine them, they give you a negative 4. 49, factors of 49 is 1 and 49, and actually 7 and 7, that's it. And it's pretty simple to see which one it's going to be, because this is going to give you 50, and this one will give you 14, though. So you want the 14. But again, they're both negatives. So, alright, so this one would be x minus 7, x minus 7. When you factor them and you have the same thing times itself, the correct way to write that would be x minus 7 squared. So remember, something to the squared power is just that times itself. So the second one would actually be the right one. Alright, and then there is going to be 3 questions on your homework that talk about factoring with a GCF. So you have a GCF. Remember, that is a greatest common factor. That's something all 3 variables in your trinomial are going to have in common. Looking at number 23, it says 4k squared plus 12k plus 8. And then on your homework, it's not going to be, they're not going to be set out in sets like this, where it's going to say set 1, all like this. No, it's going to have them all mixed together. So you have to remember which ones they're going to be. That's why I write out this negative, negative, plus negative, plus negative. So remember, if they're the same signs, they're either going to both be positive or both be negative. That's going to depend on if this middle term. If your middle term is negative and your last term is positive, then you're at a negative, negative. If your middle term is positive and your last term is positive, you're at a positive, positive. But if your last term is a negative, that's automatically a plus negative. One of them is positive, one of them is negative. This middle term will just depend which of the numbers was negative. So if the middle term is negative, that means your bigger number was negative and your smaller number was positive. If this term was positive, then that meant your bigger number was positive and your smaller number was negative. But these signs are going to determine what kind of signs you're going to have inside of your factor. Okay, so on this set of homework only, your greatest common factor is actually going to be the number in front of the k squared. So you would factor out that. So that would just leave you k squared. Remember, when you factor, you take the term. So 12k divided by 4. Well, that'd just be 12 divided by 4 and k. So that would be 3k. And then 8 divided by 4 is 2. So then, once you've factored out that 4, you can just focus on the inside. 2 and 3. 2 is another prime number. It's actually the first prime number and the only even prime number. It only goes in by 1 and 2. So since the middle term is positive, then you can tell that these are both going to be positives. Positive 1 and positive 2. So since you factor out the 4, you have to keep that 4. That 4 doesn't go away. Nothing goes away in math. It just doesn't magically disappear. I started trying to write x because x is technically my favorite variable. +2. Alright. Numbers don't magically disappear in math, especially when there's no equality. You can just factor them out, so it would just sit on the outside. Sit on the outside, sit on the outside. But you could easily go back to this if you were trying to check it by multiplying. When you multiply these two, you simplify it, you'll get this, and then you distribute the 4, and you'd go back all the way to the top. But on all of your homework questions, which there should only be 3 with the greatest common factor, it'll tell you find the greatest common factor. It's the very last questions on it. Factor out what's in front of the k squared, because we haven't talked about how to simplify or factor anything with a number there. So there will be no number there at the beginning. Okay, guys. If you have any questions, email me, and I will get back to you. Hopefully this really helped you guys. If not, we can always set a date and we can have a video chat. Alright, stay safe, guys.